Hello, good evening, friends. Welcome to episode 20 of Tea and Type. Tonight we are going to be talking about setting goals. With me tonight, as always, is the wonderful Jamie Pacton. Hi, Jamie.
Hi. Hi,
How's it going
everybody.
tonight?
Good, good, good. Everything is well here. We did want to say we've got a bit of lag, we know, on the show. So if it seems like we're talking over each other, sometimes it just is really often our different internet speed. So we're getting used to that right
It's
now.
my fault. I moved out to the middle of nowhere and now my internet is super slow. I might have to just bite the bullet and go with the evil Comcast, but oh god, it kills me to have to do so. So I'm gonna, hang out for a little while and see if I can make it work. But if I have to, I have to. Just for you guys, I will.
But
So
that's the pre-show
before
disclaimer.
Yes, pre-show disclaimer. Before we dive into all the exciting stuff today, first I have to just say that today is 1 year until the release day of The Disasters, which is really exciting.
Yay!
I finally got to, put the release date out there today. I sent it out to my this morning and then just released it out on Twitter this evening. So super excited. December 18th, 2018, 1 year from today. So yay, cool.
You're gonna have
What do you
such a party next year.
Yes, I have a bottle of rum right up on that shelf that is going to feature. So what are you drinking this week, Jamie?
Well, my lovely friend, you sent me a big box of tea. I'm drinking passion fruit caffeine-free tea out of that. And it occurs to me that in your present, I should have sent you a big box of sport tea because that's, kind of my thing, but I forgot. What are you drinking?
Oh, it's fine. Today I am drinking coffee, just straight up coffee, some random flavor of
Betrayal!
Harris Teeter grocery store brand coffee. I don't know. Look, okay, there's a reason for it though. Every holiday season I make these cookies. And I only make them once a year because they're a pain in the ass and they take forever. But they're these like little mini raisin pies. They're delicious. And they're especially good with coffee. So that's my justification and I'm sticking to it.
Those are adorable.
Yes, and delicious. I promise not to chew in the microphone. So it is pretty much the end of the year, which means it's time to look back at everything that we accomplished or didn't accomplish during the year, and look forward into the new year and see what we think we can get done. So we just wanted to talk today about setting goals and about how to maybe set goals without crushing your soul, which I may or may not be very good at. Jamie, did you have any writing goals for yourself this year and how did they go?
Oh, right. Well, yes, I did. And so part of this that we talked about before the show is to reflect a little bit backwards and then look forward. So I went into 2017 with a book still on submission with an agent, and I was nearly done with the book that I'm querying now. So I actually had really, this time last year, I was like, all right, I'm going to finish this book and I'm going to give it to my agent and we shall go onward from there. And that is not how it worked out at all. As we all know, I parted ways with my agent in March because she was a book by book agent. And so I've been querying since March, which I didn't see coming at all, ever again. I sort of retired the first book that was on submission. But I will say, so this was outside of my plan, but I've written a new book. No, I've written half of a new book this year. And because I didn't have an agent, it pushed me to do a bunch of things I would have never, ever done, such as, jump into auctions for critiques from editors and some of those charity auctions and things. So I've actually got some really interesting feedback and made some interesting connections this year that would have never happened had not, the grimness of March actually happened. So I think my balance at the end of the year is that I'm grateful for that. But I did not see this coming at this time last year, which maybe is jolly because this time next year, who knows, right? But yeah, what about you? Did you have goals for this year?
Yeah.
She laughs ruefully.
She does. I really only had one big goal this year. Two, I guess. So one of those goals was like mandated by my contract. So I don't know if you can really call it a goal, but obviously I wanted to deliver a final draft of The Disasters. No more content edits. No more developmental stuff. Just that's it. So The Disasters is in fact in the can. Flap copy's done, cover's done, dedication and acknowledgments are
Exciting.
done. Everything is done except for past pages. So that's exciting. But like by my contract, I had to do that. So I don't know if that really counts as a goal. A
It totally
big
counts. That's
goal.
part of your business of writing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, my big goal for the year though was to sell another book, and that I did not achieve. So I think what happened this year is I ended up with a lot of irons in the fire. I was trying out a bunch of different stuff because the way my contract is structured, I can't sell YA right now. I have to fulfill my YA contract with HarperCollins Children's before I can sell more YA. So that meant I had to step outside my comfort zone and, write in an age category that I'm not super, it's not that I'm not familiar, it's that I'm not as comfortable as I am in YA. So I tried adult and I tried middle grade. So back, in the spring and going into summer, I had 3 different adult ideas. And I wrote,
remember.
yeah, that was, so it's not like I wasn't productive this year,
Yeah.
just nothing came of any of it. I wrote the first chapter and a full for 3 different adult books. So I have 3 fully plotted books sitting out there, and first chapters for all of them. Ended up focusing on one of them after running them by my agent, and then just had a massive crisis of confidence and like basically panicked and had to shelve it, which is terrible. But then Disaster's revisions came along, so I got distracted for a little while, and then I was like, well, time to actually do something new. And I had this middle grade idea that I'd been kicking around for like a year and a half. So I finally figured out where I wanted to go with it, dove in, and middle grade is new to me. So I think I'm still kind of finding my footing there. So that one I did also write an entire synopsis for, and that one I did actually finish like a really shitty 0 draft of, but it needs a lot of work. Like it is a vaguely book-shaped thing, but it is not actually a book, and it's going to need a lot of work before it is actually a book. So I made a lot of progress, but I didn't actually achieve my goal of selling another book this year.
Which I think actually is a very, it's a good, I mean, I don't know, this kind of leads us into our next point. In there's only so much you can control, especially in the business side of this. So, I mean, yes, you could have completed a book, but there was ups and downs and contracts to fulfill. And so I used to set really, really unattainable goals, I guess, because there was so much of my goals that was out of my control. And I know everyone will talk about how publishing is luck, and it is for sure. It's also hustle, and it's just continuing and persevering. And out of that, there's only a few things you can control, which is how much you write and if you keep going and if you don't let rejections crush you. And so I think all of this year and even the last 2 years really informs the goals I make going forward. So like this next year, it would be unreasonable to say, I'm going to sell 2 books this next year. If you finish 2 books and then maybe that's kind of like more in your control. At least that's how I'm kind of seeing things. Has your perspective shifted?
Yes. And I was doubting whether I should go into the whole like acronym of, proper goal setting, but you know what, I'm going to do it because it's relevant. So there are these things called SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So what you just said, it hits the nail on the head. Selling another book is not really under my control. The only thing that is under my control is writing and delivering to my agent a book that is of sellable quality.
Yeah.
So that is something that I could have done this year that I did not do for various reasons. But that is a lot more specific, and it's something that I can achieve myself. Now, setting a time frame for that can be more difficult, but...
Well, you think about, too, that maybe this was your year of, like, germination, because you came up with... I've read, like, 6, 7... I don't know. I've read a bunch of different, like, snippets of books from you, which I still think about.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
No, it's okay. But it's just to say, like, you go into 2018 with a crap ton of material, you know, and that's amazing because any one of those, maybe you go back to the adult book, or maybe you really figure out, I mean, I know what you're working on right now, but you know, maybe when you're done with that in March or May, then you got another project to move into, and that's really exciting, you know. And I feel like that kind of was my I don't know, one of my end results of this year too, is I've actually now got an abundance of ideas, which is great, because at the beginning of last year I thought, okay, I'm going to finish this one. Oh my God, I don't know what comes next. And now I have a couple books kind of in the queue. That's great. I mean, that's what we want, you know? So yeah.
That's a good point, actually. You know, this time last year, I think after every time I finish a book, I have that massive crisis of,
Yep.
oh God, I'm never going to write another book again. I'm never going to have another idea. That was it. I'm done. And,
I've peaked.
you know, after this, yes, I have peaked. It's over now. You know, after this year, you're right. I do have several like fully developed ideas on the shelf that I could pick up at some point. So that is good. That is kind of comforting. So, yay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And yeah, you've definitely generated a ton of new ideas this year, you know, and they're all super promising. So I think we have plenty of things we could work on next year. So how do we choose, I guess, how much of that is reasonable to tackle in a year?
How about we show my goals sheet for the writing goals for the next 6 to 8 months. So according to this sheet, I should already have 3 new books done since September, and have at least 1, 2, 3, 4 more done before March.
Jamie, no.
Like, I
no,
don't know.
sweetie.
I make these things and I print them out and I'm like, oh, look what I made. I made this chart and this is nice. And I mean, some of them
I
are
do
done
love a good chart.
they're done in bits and pieces. That's absolutely unrealistic. I mean, my goal, actually, one of my goals last year when I went in was to say I'm going to write 1,000 words a day, because I figured if nothing else, I'll end up with it 365,000 words for the year. And I actually did a really good job last January and February. I wrote like 60,000 words. So this ridiculous amount of planning was based on that sort of metric. But I mean, that is not how the end of the year has ended up. So how to set realistic goals. Maybe give yourself an ambitious chart, but understand that life gets in the way, or your ideas stall out, or in your case, a crisis of confidence is coming. But then maybe, I don't know, what do you do then? You know, how do you set realistic goals?
Right. I kind of wonder how much of that is, you know, part of it is the goal itself, but part of it is also being willing to adjust and forgive along the way if things happen. Like, shit happens, man. Life is all over the place, and you have to be willing to roll with the punches and forgive yourself, and readjust. And I've had to do that several times this year. You know, and I try and stay as accountable as possible to the reasonable goals that I do actually set. And I have, you know, a couple of wonderful writing friends who help me out with that. You and Lee both are wonderful. And, you know, I think having other people to sort of report back to kind of helps me stay accountable. But I am really like a numbers person. Like, despite being like a wordy person, I really thrive on numbers. That's why NaNoWriMo is so good for me. Because there are charts and there's like a little line graph, and you know, I find stuff like that really motivating. So I think maybe what I need to try to do is maybe figure out a way to leverage that, because I know that that's what motivates me. And it's going to be something different for other people. You know, maybe you need a synopsis to feel like you're ready to tackle a book. You know, maybe you feel like you need to write a book a year to feel successful as an author. Like, you know, what motivates you individually, and how can you give that to yourself, and how can you use that, you know, how can you leverage that to keep your motivation high throughout the year?
I think, yeah, no, that's a good point. I lost a little bit of that through the lag. But something. So we're both reading stories, which is what you talked about with Lee, and we're texting furiously back and forth. And one thing I've noticed, and I think this is going to continue this year, is, and so one of my goals is just to become a better writer, become better at the process, become, you know, slightly better going into a novel, like know my characters better, know my world better, so that, you know, I don't have the soggy middle or whatever it is. And so I don't know, I think every time I I don't know, setting goals and rewards and things like that, it's going to change. So you're going to fail, you're going to have life happen. And you also need to understand that your process is going to change. And so I don't know, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing where I'm at with that, because I
Hmm.
think that's the goal, right? Is that we become better writers, that books get easier to write, even when the ideas don't come or life is hard. The actual process of sitting down is not like as excruciating as drafting often is
Yeah.
every time. I don't know, maybe it's always
Yeah.
terrible. It could be, but um, I'm hoping that it gets easier a little bit.
Right. No, I think I share that goal with you actually. I do want to focus on my craft this year, and I absolutely want my second book to be better than my first one.
Yep.
I know where some of my weaknesses are, and I've really had those shown to me this year through all of the different drafting of all of these 8 million projects and working on the disasters. I have some specific areas that I'm trying to work on. So that's definitely a big goal for me. And I think I am going to stick with the goal of I want to deliver one manuscript of publishable quality to my agent in 2018, other than the one that I am contractually obligated to deliver,
Yeah.
which also needs to happen.
Oh, you want two
Um,
then? So you want your
I
second
want
book plus.
to.
I think
So
that's a
I
great
need to
goal.
fulfill the second book of my contract, but I think I have time to do another one as well, especially if it's one of the ones that's already like half done.
Yep.
I can make that happen.
I have
I
strong
feel like I
opinions
have
on which
to.
one it should be.
Okay, well we can talk about that afterwards because I'm curious now. I have to channel Lee here a little bit because Lee and I are both kind of fans of the overambitious, completely unreasonable goal,
Yep.
which for some people I think can be a fun motivational tool. If you are the kind of person who thrives well under that like last minute pressure, the sort of procrastinator pressure, or something like that, you can kind of manufacture that experience by saying, it's sort of the NaNoWriMo effect. I am going to write an entire book in a month.
Yep.
So those kinds of overambitious goals do kind of serve me well at times, and I just have to be really strategic about where I place them in my life.
Ooh, smart.
Like
Yep.
I know for sure that like I can't set a super ambitious goal at the like and in February into the beginning of March, because that's when the winter blues hit real bad, and I'm not going to be super functional then. So I need to have a more reasonable goal for that time frame. Maybe I'll write a little fanfic to make myself happy. I'll
Yes.
still be working on my writing. Or maybe I'll work on revising some instead of generating new content, which I find a lot more exhausting.
Yeah.
So I just need to sort of work with where I know I'm going to be as a person, and see where I can place those things in my schedule.
Yeah, I think that's good. That self-knowledge is really helpful. I mean, like as we talked about, like I have nearly 2 weeks off here at the end of the year when all my teaching is done. And so that for me is always a really fecund time for like sitting down every day and, just writing and then getting back into that habit. Maybe this is why I always go into the new year strong. And by the end of the year, I'm just like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that, if you can sort of schedule projects accordingly, that's very, very smart. And I mean, scheduling is one thing. And for me, one of the goals is the actual doing. So instead of saying 1,000 words every day, I'd like to give myself permission to just write 100. And maybe that would become 300, because that's usually what happens is I set it for 1,000 and I write 2,000. So if I set it for 200, then I'll probably get at least 500, and that'll put it back into the habit. And not everybody writes every day, but for me, it's actually a really useful thing to keep me in story and keep me going, and make sure that I write before I pour a bourbon or I watch TV or something like that. So yeah, what
I
about
like that, nice small goal of 100 words a day or something like that. That sounds doable to me. So maybe I'm gonna give that a try too.
yeah.
See how it goes.
I mean, it's something at least, right? And then you go over and you're like, oh my God, I am so fucking amazing. Like, look what I did.
Yes. I
Really
love it.
low expectations, and then you
Yes.
win.
Set that
Um,
bar low.
but okay, so those are writing goals. I mean, in terms of stuff we can't control, like I hope I have an agent. But how do I like make that an attainable goal? I write at least one more, maybe two more books that could, in fact, get me an agent. I polish them up, I make them pretty, and I just keep hustling and pushing in that way. I think professionally, like I hope to go to one conference at least. I hope you're there. Um,
That
but
would
I
be
mean, that's
awesome.
the kind of like that I can control those professional goals. Like everything else, I can't really control. I don't know. Do you have
Mhm.
any professional sort of things like that? I mean, you're gonna.
I mean, I'm holding off on setting those goals until January. I have a phone call with my agent to talk about, sort of marketing and publicity stuff for next
Nice.
year. So I want to see how that goes. I have a lot of pie in the sky dreams. I really want to go to Dragon Con because I've never been. It's the stuff of my nerdy dreams. But so we'll see on that front. What about reading goals? I mean,
Yeah.
reading is such a huge part of being a writer, and what we choose to consume has a huge impact on our craft. So, do you have any particular reading goals for next year?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit last time. I mean, again, for me, consistency is a huge thing because my life is full of unpredictability. Um, so one of my reading goals is just to make time for it, you know? So maybe if I write my 100 words, there's 30 minutes, and then I sit down, this gorgeous couch in my office that I never use, like we moved it upstairs, sit down and then I read for 30 minutes. And it's like either a craft book or, I mean, so something like that, being very deliberate in my reading, because normally I take a book to bed, then I read
Hmm.
for 10 minutes and then I go to sleep. And I'm just
Yeah.
done because it's midnight, or it's 1 o'clock in the morning and my kids are going to be up in 4 hours and I'm just done. So yeah, I think just being more deliberate about reading. And then I actually do have a couple like big books that I want to get through. I don't know, like there's a couple random history books that I've bought recently that I haven't finished at all.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
I think for me, I just want to continue to stretch, what I read. I want to make sure that I'm
Ooh,
not reading just YA. I want to make sure that I'm continuing to read middle grade and nonfiction. But really, I read so little adult fiction.
mhm.
So one of my favorite classes in library school was a class on reader's advisory, where like it was assigned like you read, I think, 2 books a week, and you read one book in every genre. And that really like pushed me outside my comfort zone, and I read all kinds of stuff I would never
Yeah.
have touched otherwise. And I think that is really valuable. Whether it's a book that you would want to emulate or not, just seeing what's out there and absorbing all those different styles is really important. So I'm going to try and do that next year. I think I'm going to try and read one book in every genre, and I'm going to try and make more of them adult books, I think.
I think that's so smart. And there's a couple actually adult books that I missed in 2017 that are on my list. And then going into the new year, Chloe Benjamin's The Immortalist, like I'm dying to read that. There's a couple like really just big adult books coming out. Maybe we should do that as part of our show is like we should challenge ourselves and we can read. I mean, it's not exactly, Megan and Jamie's book club, but kind of like let's just read one adult book and then we can kind of talk about like our takeaways as YA writers. What do we see in this? What, have we learned? What did we like? What was challenging? KT Camillo, the, super famous, wonderfully prolific middle grade writer, only reads adult literary fiction. That's it. She doesn't
Wow.
really, I mean, she reads like Catherine Patterson and a couple other classics, so she has like warm feelings for those. But as a reader, when she sits down to read, it's all adult literary, which I think is interesting because her books are so very beautifully literary. They're just for children. And so I think you
Mhm.
can see sort of resonances of what she does as a reader in her own writing. And that's a kind of a cool way to think about like just growing your own writing. If you're not just, I don't know, I mean, it's good to know what's happening in your genre and stuff, but I think it can also be stifling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super important to keep up with what's going on in your specific field. But if that's all you read, then you're just in an echo chamber and you're never going to learn
Yeah.
anything new. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely important. So,
Book club to be discussed.
yes, book club coming soon. So we are coming to the end of our episode. We're coming to the end of the year, of our last episode of the year. So I think, as we said last episode, we are going to take the next 2 weeks off and be kind of evaluating how Tea and Type has gone over the last 20 episodes, and whether there's anything we want to switch up or anything like that. So if you have feedback on the format of the episodes or the sprints after or anything like that, even if it's like, Megan, for the love of God, please get better internet. Just let us know down in the comments or, add us on Twitter or use hashtag Tea and Type or whatever you want to do. Just reach out to us. We are, thrilled to have your feedback for that.
True.
Before we head out, do you want to recommend a thing this week?
You need to give me a minute to think.
Okay.
Go ahead, you first.
I will recommend my thing. So my thing is another Star Wars book. Hopefully I didn't talk about this last week. Stop me if I did. It's called Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray, because Claudia Gray writes Princess Leia like nobody else does. And this is a YA Star Wars novel, and it's sort of an origin story for Leia. And one of the reasons that I am recommending this is that all of you poor souls who have not seen The Last Jedi yet, you should go read this book first.
Okay.
Because it introduces a character, Vice Admiral Holdo, who shows up in The Last Jedi. She's a new character. She is introduced in this book, and you get to see her as a teenager when she and Leia are first meeting and becoming friends and forming that ally relationship. So I had that realization in the middle of the theater. I suddenly realized, like, oh my God, that's that character. Everything is so different now.
Yep.
So, don't be me. Don't bother the people in the theater by going, oh no. Read the book first and go in there with that knowledge.
Awesome.
How about you?
I've been consuming massive amounts of Vikings because it's on Amazon Prime lately, and I'm so pissed off. I'm so angry. I'm like early season 2, and I think I'm done because Ragnar's just a cad, and I'm furious. Have you seen this show?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I love your anger.
It's righteous. It really is. Like, the show is great for, like, I don't know. It's definitely violent, and it's super violent against women, and you say, oh, it's, Viking times, and I mean, it's excellent world building and it's complex. Anyways, it's free on Amazon Prime, but I don't recommend that because you're just gonna get angry. So I'm done with that. But actually, here's what I recommend. Here's what I want to recommend, because I've had a hard week. I've had a hard couple weeks. I want to recommend finding a way to be kind to yourself and sort of refill your wells, and figuring out a way of how you are going to navigate, you, viewer, not you, Megan, how you're going to navigate other people's success, especially when it's close to you, especially when it is enormous, and especially when you've had a tough year of, where you thought you would be versus where you are, or you've had a tough day because, life. Because there's a lot about this that is not fair. There's a lot about this that is not easy. And there's a lot about it that you can't control. And so I think the sooner you can kind of at least come to grips with that in a meaningful way, and then also just begin to brainstorm some strategies for how you can refill your well, or how you can keep yourself whole. That is probably my recommendation, because I don't do that very often. I often just go into these things blindly and full of emotion, and spend many long nights weeping and drinking, and yelling at the TV about Vikings. But but I do feel like you go through that, and then you have some strategies in place. But if you can start thinking about that beforehand, and know that failure is as much a part of this as the joy of writing, and that other people will find great success and you may not. Like, you just may not. That's also something not to diminish your own joy in it. Sorry, that was a moment, but
it sounds like a good goal for you for next year.
Well, sure, but I don't know. So, like, recommend just like knowing yourself and knowing, like, this news is going to hit me in this way. How can I bolster myself? So, anyways, I recommend chocolate.
Yes, that was good.
And we gotta go.
Right.
Here's a promise. Here's a promise, gentle viewers. We will just go ahead and up the time from 15 minutes to 30 in the new year.
Even pretending.
Yeah. I mean,
you will get something from 20 to 30 minutes from us. It will definitely not be 15, though. That I can promise you.
So by 2020, when the episodes are 2 hours long, and people are like, "Oh God, you've just made a premiere movie." Like, no.
already. Yeah. Our
We won't go over
subscribers
Thanksgiving.
will jump ship so hard. All right. So fortunately, you get 2 weeks without us. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. We are going to be back on Monday, January 8th. So happy holidays to everybody. And this has been Tea and Type. So let's head over to Twitter and make some words together. Bye.
Happy New Year, everybody.